Rifts versus hunts, which one is the best farming method? Find out soon, but the clear-cut winner for emulators is definitely LDPlayer. LDPlayer 9 is now available with the smoothest gameplay, the most stable connection, and a ton of tailor-made features just for Epic 7. So regardless if you decide to stay in hunts or start venturing into the rifts, please do yourself a favor and use the links in the description below to start downloading and playing Epic 7 on LDPlayer right now. Help support me at the same time. Thank you guys for being cool with this. Thank you to LD for sponsoring us. And without further ado, let's get back to the video. What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Epic 7 video. Today, let's talk about the end game farming modes, Rift and Hunt. Which one is better? There's been so much data. Rift has been out for a while now, so I want to discuss at length with math to back it up, but I really want to just talk heart to heart, because sometimes even if there is math, just understand I have some evidence posted by a lot of players that have done some extensive research. So don't worry about that. This is not just a feelings argument, but I do want to talk that it is going to be a player by player basis. And so we'll go through the whole thing. What's better, rifts, hunts, what's good about rifts, what you might need to do in addition to it, what my plan is, and how you should tackle this depending on where you're at in Epic 7. So thank you for tuning in. Let's go ahead and break it down. Okay, let's begin by talking about my personal experience thus far with Rift. If you guys can see here, this is the same team I've been using ever since Kane came out. If you don't have Kane, don't worry though. Units like Jacko, Milam, and Mercedes can also fulfill his spot, and some of them even outperform Kane, especially at lower Rift controller levels. But that's besides the point. This is not going to be a Rift gearing guide, unit composition guide. If you guys do need help with that, please stop by any of my live streams on Twitch and YouTube. I'm live on both now whenever you see me online, so please come by and say hello and ask additional questions there. But I mainly want to talk about Rift versus hunts in this video. What's better, hunts versus rifts? I want to make one thing clear, and this is backed up by numbers, by data, by evidence that has been cataloged and researched by the community, which I'll reference later. But just take my word for it, guys, that Rift will be the premier endgame mode. A lot of people were predicting this as soon as Rift was announced, and especially now that we have the numbers, the data, and with Smilegate confirming and then already introducing, right, this past weekend, Rift buff bonuses, it's going to be the clear winner when you're going for equipment, especially epic equipment. There's other bonuses as well, like being able to choose your set, filtering out the bad sets. However, there is some downsides to Rift, which I might cover later, in terms of things like not having enough reforged essences, materials, and especially charms. Unfortunately, you won't be able to farm just Rift. You will get bottlenecked in having too much gear and not enough charms to even upgrade or roll them. But we'll talk about that in just a second. Just understand that Rift will be the best mode to farm if you're going for gear. And most of y'all watching should want and need to improve your gear. Just how much will vary depending on what kind of player you are. But Rift, once again, is the best mode for getting gear. And it should be something, if you care about gear, that you should keep in mind and have a plan for in the near future. Okay, let's take a quick look, and don't get scared off just yet, guys. I'm not really going to go into the math too much here, but I will post this in the description if anyone that wants to, brush up and see the actual results and numbers on why Rift is very, very good to farm, better than Hunt in terms of epic gear. But this is from user Aesthetica, so thank you Aesthetica for providing these resources, and a lot of the results were given by his guildmate Wolf, who I have been in contact with. We've been talking about Rift back and forth, and some of y'all might have even caught my account review that I did with him. Very, very strong player, legend player that takes the game super seriously, some of the best gear in the game. So you know that Wolf, if he's taking Rift, if he's saying Rift is the best mode, this is the guy that, is going to be spending a lot in terms of just the game, resources, all that stuff. So you should trust that he's going to try to get the most efficient mode to farm. But like I said, I'm not going to bore y'all with the numbers. I did want to reference another post on here, though, from user Quiz Stolen, who I referenced back in the summer event, if y'all remember, with Ocean Breeze, Luluka, and Lethe. That event was actually better to farm than Hunts as well, and we'll find ourselves in a similar position here in terms of Rift versus Hunts. He has some numbers as well, and he's essentially confirming with user Aesthetica that Rifts are also much better in terms of gearing than hunts. Okay, he's also talking about the equipment slots and being able to choose the gear, choosing the sets, and all that stuff. So yeah, go ahead, guys, and if you want, I'll have this linked below and you guys can reference the numbers for yourself. But for those of you that don't want a number crunch, that don't want to take the game in that kind of fashion, that just want to be told plainly, should I worry about Rift or not, I'll go ahead and be the one to tell you guys here. So find out what kind of player you are. Listen closely here, and I'm going to talk about a few different camps, mainly two, and just find out which one you're in and then follow appropriately. So for the first camp of players that I want to address here that are listening to this video, those of you that have this rift mode unlocked, meaning you've cleared the latest episode or up to the point where you can unlock rifts. If you do have a good amount of resources, if you have a lot of the fire units built already or have them available, period, have Molagora, have the runes to build up, like Specialty Change Hazel, for example. You don't necessarily need her, but she's one of the best. If you have those resources on hand, and if you've been dragging your feet, I would encourage you to go ahead and invest in Rift. It's not too late in the rotation. We're still pretty early on, where you'll still get a good amount of value. Even if the investment cost is steep, you will hit the higher Rift controller levels within a reasonable amount of time, and most players watching will be able to eventually get to a one attempt, just period. That you will be able to one attempt this if you are in an end game stage, if you have the resources available. No matter what team comp you use, it just might take some of y'all longer or maybe some more investment than others, depending on your gearing situation. But the Rift controllers and the Rift fragments help out a ton with that, so don't even worry about it. You will eventually be able to at least 2 attempt, and most y'all watching will be able to 1 attempt, and that makes Rift super worth it, especially during Rift event periods. This should be a mode that if you care about gear, just choose whichever sets you want and get to farming. Bonus, you will be able to get the seasonal rewards as well, and then you'll be in a prime position to get ready for the next Rift rotation on top of that. So, once again, if you are in a position, if you have the resources to clear Rift right now in a 1 attempt fashion eventually, I encourage you to do so sooner than later, okay? That is just the bottom line. If you care about gear, get to rifting. It is 100% worth it. Now, the other camp, those of you that I want to advise that maybe you don't need to break the bank, you don't need to break your back rushing this mode, and that's going to be if you're a little bit more casual and if you're a little bit newer or returning. Meaning if you haven't even unlocked the Rift just yet, if you don't have a lot of these fire units available, if you missed out on Kane, even though I did give alternatives, let's say you don't have enough Molagora, you don't have enough fire runes, you don't have the ability to especially change Hazel just yet, and it's going to take you a lot of time, and you also think your gear may not be up to par yet, where it's going to take you so long to eventually get that 1 attempt clear. All those resources, by the time you eventually get up to snuff and find it worthwhile, to 1 attempt, have your full team set up, and then it's already almost going to rotate, or the rotate's already happening, meaning, the next Rift mode is going to be available. I don't think that cost is going to be worth your time or, the headache just involved. Instead, just focus on building up your overall account, stay in whatever hunt you've already been farming, and just prepare to eventually get into the Rift, especially next rotation. Get ready to jump in from the get-go there and have the plan set accordingly once we figure out, which element it is and which units are good from the get-go. So that's going to be the 2 different camps. If you think you can farm Rift already and get to eventually 1 attempt clear in a timely fashion, do it. It's worth it. Rift is so dang good right now for gear. I have so much gear, I can't even roll it in time with how much just gear that epic gear that the Rift has been gifting me. Those of you that may not be there just yet, don't feel bad if you're missing out on stuff. Always take it at your own pace and never compare yourself to others. Trust me on this. This game is a marathon, not a sprint. You might have heard that in the past. And I think it's okay to miss out on the seasonal rewards the newer you are. And if you don't think you can get to a 1 attempt in time, or don't have the units, don't have the resources, etc. Okay, so that's kind of the long story short. If you can, do it. If you can't just yet, don't sweat it too hard. That being said, I want to end, or at least talk about the cons of Rift, and that is kind of something that I mentioned in the intro, and that is Rift, even if it is the premier endgame mode, you can't farm just Rift, period. You will eventually run out or bottleneck yourself with too much gear and not enough reforged materials and not enough charms. Even though Rift does drop a decent amount, you will need to supplement with both hunts, and on top of that too, you'll need to supplement with unrecorded history for the catalysts and other goodies, okay? So just keep in mind, this will still be a balancing act where eventually you'll get to the point where it's going to be maybe like 70% Rift, and then you're going to get the rest of your time or energy spent in hunts and unrecorded history for gold, catalyst, charms, the rest of the stuff there, reforged materials. That'll be up to you guys. Maybe I'll have a guide on that later, but just understand, even when you do eventually get to the point where I'm at, where you're going to 1 attempt Rift every time, you still will need to venture into those other modes. It's not a complete replacement. All right, guys, I think I'll wrap things up there. If you have additional questions, please leave them in the comments below, or like I keep telling y'all, come hang out with me on the live streams. It's much better to talk one-on-one, and I can talk in real time and we can have a back and forth. But regardless, get to Rift if you can, and if you can't if you don't think you can do it just yet, don't feel bad holding off until the next rotation. All right, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, guys.